Good day there, eh? And welcome to the Thundering Waters Bushcraft channel. If you happen to like today's content, please hit that like button after the video or whenever you stop watching. I'm going to be posting bushcraft specific videos about every month. If you're wondering why that is instead of every day or week, please check out the other video on the channel entitled Why I'm Posting Every Month. On to today's topic, which, if you can tell from the title, is about jimping. First, some of the things we're going to go over in the video are: what is jimping? Why is jimping? And of course, my own thoughts on it, as well as some historical perspectives, anecdotes, and observations. So, what is jimping? Well, in this case, we're specifically talking about jimping on knives. And what that is a particular section of the knife that usually comes into contact with thumbs or fingers, that instead of it being a flat, bare knife on the metal, it's got little waves put into it, or like knurling. I don't really have any personal knives that actually really have a lot of jimping on them. So I'm going to roll in a couple pictures right now with some arrows showing you what jimping looks like and the typical places on a knife that you might find jimping. So, why jimping? Well, this is kind of where I go into my dislike of jimping. I think it's useless. But most people will say that jimping, they would like to see it, usually on what is called the thumb ramp, which is this area of the knife right here, where when you're doing things, your thumb sits on the knife like that. The other area where people like to see jimping is in the finger choil, which this isn't really a finger choil, but it's half of a choil. Finger choils are often up here closer to the edge, and a lot of people like to see jimping done in there so that when they have their finger in there, basically they're saying that the jimping provides grip. So let's get into my thoughts on why I think jimping is completely useless. So most people will say that the jimping, either on the thumb ramp or on, a finger choil, is there to aid in your thumb from slipping off the edge of the blade or the back of the knife, and to aid your finger from slipping around as well. The reason why I'm making this video is I see a lot of knife reviewers commenting on a knife and saying, wow, this is a great knife, but it doesn't have any jimping. Now, not this knife specifically, but knives in general that I see people reviewing, they almost make it seem like you shouldn't choose a knife that doesn't have jimping over a knife that does. And I think this falls into what a lot of the firearms community falls into with the tactical stuff. Yeah, I think jimping is tactical. I think that's all it is. It's just a look, and it actually serves no real function. Years ago, when I started hearing about people reviewing knives and giving jimping a bad rap, I purposely went out and I covered my hands in grease, cooking oil, and butter, and then did bushcrafting stuff with it. Not once did I find my thumb slipping off the back of the knife and went, gee, I wish I had jimping on the back of there so my thumb wouldn't fall off or slide off. So I don't really understand why jimping is so necessary for some people. My thought is they probably don't actually use their knives. Kind of like people who like tactical stuff on their firearms don't actually use their firearms. I know, controversial thing to say, right? But I think it's the truth. So, getting into some historical anecdotes and observations, knives have been around for, thousands and thousands of years by now. They went from being flint, knapped flint knives, maybe even starting out as stone, going from that to flint, or maybe a mix of the two. And then when people figured out how to do copper, they started making copper knives. And then they went on to iron, and then alloys, steel. And I find it interesting that people who for thousands of years, their lives depended on their knife. They used it every day for not just bushcraft 10,000 years ago, but they used it to carve animals up so that they could get food and things like that. Their hands would be covered in blood and sometimes entrails and things like that. And not once I have searched the internet trying to find an ancient blade that has jimping on the thumb ramp, or even has jimping on a finger choil. In fact, most of those ancient knives don't even have a finger guard. They're like a puko knife, and they just go straight across to the blade. Now, I would like to think that people whose lives depended on their knife, if they really had that much issue with their fingers falling off of the back of their blade, they would have put jimping on the knife. And yet, throughout history, we can see this 0 times. 0. I'll throw in some images right now of some truly ancient to relatively modern knives. And there isn't a single bit of jimping on it. Okay, so something that's kind of near and dear to my heart. And if someone hasn't really ever used knives a lot out in the bush, they might think that a particular knife that is actually an excellent knife is not worth buying because it doesn't have jimping. And that's kind of ridiculous. Is to kind of dispel the myth of jimping, that it's really a bunch of BS, and jimping does not need to be on a blade. And if anyone wants to argue about that, I would submit to you, out of the thousands upon thousands of years that humankind has used knives, why has it been only like maybe the past decade that all of a sudden jimping on the thumb ramp or in a choil has become necessary? Bueller? Bueller? So, there we go. You don't need to buy a knife that has jimping. It really serves no purpose except for an aesthetic look. And if you like that look, by all means, buy a knife with jimping. Go right ahead. I don't think you shouldn't. But if you're buying a knife with jimping because you think it's going to give you an advantage, or if because someone has told you it's going to give an advantage, you're not going to need it, and it's useless in a sense. There's a lot of great knives, just like this Cold Steel Pennington Hunter Light. It's got no jimping whatsoever on the back, and I have never, ever, 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 like I said, I've covered my hands in butter, cooking oil, grease, and I've never, ever once, even during that, had my thumb slipping off the back of the knife. So, if you like the content in this video, again, please like. And stay tuned on the channel for more videos. Every month I'm going to be posting new bushcraft stuff. Find out why. Check out that other video that I've got up. Why I'm posting every month. I hope everyone has an excellent day, and I hope that you are all inspired by all of the awesome videos that are here on YouTube to go outdoors and to experience the outdoors. Getting out of the house and getting some real nice oxygen from all these beautiful trees. They're producing this beautiful oxygen for you to breathe. And it's a symbiotic relationship because the mitochondria in our bodies, through what they do, produce CO2. And we expel that CO2 back out into the air. And these lovely things breathe CO2, and their energy process creates and exhales oxygen for us. It's a symbiotic relationship that we have with these trees. In fact, we have a very big symbiotic relationship with almost everything in nature. So please get out there and enjoy it. And as always, leave no trace. And please, please do not ever cut live trees unless it's an emergency situation. There's always deadwood everywhere for you to practice on. Thanks for stopping by Thundering Waters Bushcraft. Have a great day.